Hi. It's been a while since I actually posted a video. Not for lack of trying. This is my January wrap up, but it's gonna be structured differently because I did actually film after the first week of January. I did film a wrap up for that first week. And then 2 weeks after that, I filmed like a recent reads kind of thing. And I had all intentions of editing and posting those videos, and it just didn't happen. I am just using this as a fresh blank slate. Moving forward, we're gonna get back on a regular schedule. What I'm gonna do is this quick little intro with all my stats and stuff, and then I'm gonna put in the footage that I did film in the past month. So you'll have my footage that I filmed after the first week, then you'll have my footage after that for the next 2 weeks of reading, and then at the end I will finish out with the books that I have read since that last bit of footage. January's over somehow. It has felt like an entire eternity. But let's talk about books. All right, first stats. I like stats. I'm a nerd. I have spreadsheets. The spreadsheet I do use and I love and have used for years is from Allie at Hardback Hoarder. I'm gonna link her Etsy down below. I use the yearly spreadsheets. I did try the 5-year one, but I didn't like, it was a little too much data. So I just do the annual ones and I pay, however much. It's like $5 each year. Because I like spreadsheets, but I'm just not good at making them myself. So I use Allie's because they're cute and they give me the information that I want. So in January, I read 14 books. And I DNF'd one book that I'm going to talk about because I did get a good way into that one. Of the genres I read one contemporary book. That was also a translated book. 4 fantasy books, 6 paranormal romance, and 3 sci-fi. As for ratings, average rating of 3.4, which I feel like is a little low for how much I'm enjoying what I'm reading, but also I'm not rating what I'm reading very high, so it's a very weird situation. Anyways, one book I gave 1 star. One book I gave 1.5 stars. I gave 2 books 2.5 stars. I gave 3 books 3.5 stars. 5 books got 4 stars. 1 book got 4.5 stars and 1 book got 5 stars. How I got my books, 10 from the library in whatever form. 3 I had already purchased and 1 was subscription. So this would be like Marvel Unlimited or what else? What else do I have? I have Marvel Unlimited. I have Viz and Shonen Jump, which, they're kind of paired together. That's really all I have. I used to have Kindle Limited, but I don't have that anymore. The age of the books that I've read, the oldest book is from 2017 and the newest is from 2024. I have not read a 2025 release yet. Diversity in the books, I do track diversity and I track 3 types. I track BIPOC authors, LGBTQIA content, and own voices. And this is obviously, it's obvious of these categories, especially when it's own voices or LGBTQIA. Now, with the one caveat, I do read manga, but I don't count all manga as diverse because most of the time manga is written by a Japanese author in Japanese for a Japanese audience with Japanese characters. So in that context, manga is not diverse. But if there's something within the manga that is diverse, and the one I read this month is, I will count that as diverse. So 57% of what I read was diverse in some fashion. 8 books were BIPOC, by BIPOC authors. 4 were LGBTQIA plus in some fashion, and 9 were own voices, and obviously own voices. Author familiarity. How did I know these authors? 1 book is from a debut author. 2 are authors that were new to me. 10 books were from authors I'd read before, and most of that is because I blasted through a series. And 1 is from a author that I would term a favorite author. Country that the authors are from. 5 from the United States, 2 from Japan, 1 from South Korea, and 6 of the books, because I read a series, New Zealand. What you're gonna see next is my first week of reading, and then my, I think it's another 2 weeks of reading, and then finishing out the month. Welcome to another weekly wrap-up, the first of 2025, which is awesome. My reading has kind of picked up a little bit since December, but also not, because I had a really big bomb book this week, which we will talk about. I have a very long rant review on Goodreads for it, but we'll get to that. Essentially, what I've read, a couple of things, and then I have a very long book haul that I will put at the end of this, because it's quite a few books. But to be fair, one, I haven't done one since like the end of November, because my December Aardvark book is part of this, so I did not do anything in December. Two, most of these were using Christmas gift money, so they were free. And then lots of deals, coupons, BOGO, all that kind of good stuff. So it looks like a lot. It is a lot, but this is gonna be probably my last big collective book haul for a while, because I do have plans to try to do like a read down my TBR kind of situation this year. So we're gonna get into all that. And then, yes, if you've noticed, I have a new situation here, built a new bookcase, got like all my favorites. This is my absolute top favorites of all time shelf. And then this, it has books now, but as the year progresses and I get favorite books, they're gonna go here for the year. But for now, it's just filling in space. That's about it. LA is on fire, but you know, we're here, still reading books. That's how we cope, right? All right, let's do the weekly wrap up. Okay, first thing I finished for the year. Actually, I was, the first thing I started is what I'm still currently reading. The next thing after that I started was the first audiobook of the year. And I could tell that was going on a very fast downward slope, and I was not about to let the first book I finish be a huge 1-star bomb. So I finally picked up Volume 5 of the Other Worlds books, Depend on the Bean Counter. I love this series. I've talked about it at length. I'm not going to go on about it again here. Fantasy, isekai, gay romance, magic makes them do it, all that fun stuff. This is no exception. 5 stars. I just really enjoy this series, so it's going to be hard for each volume to not be 5 stars. And this one, a lot of essentially the same thing is going on, where our main character is kind of shaping the world or the political landscape, and now the church is involved, and he's kind of uncovering some weird goings on between the church and the state. And the romance is continuing. They are both dum-dums in love, which is fun to read. And the art continues to be astounding. I love it. I don't think there's any spoilers here, but I just love the mix of the type of art that you find in here. And sometimes it's silly, but there's just sometimes like really beautiful art like that. It's gorgeous, isn't it? But yes, love the series, continuing to love it. 5 stars. Next thing I read, and we're gonna get settled in. I have my iPad because I have my very long review here. Unfortunately, 1 star to The God and the Gumiho by Sophie Kim. This is a fantasy novel, and unfortunately for me, it is essentially a romantasy, but it is actually focused on South Korean myths, South Korean mythology, gods, demons, all of that fun stuff. There is a god, a fallen god, Sokha, and a Gumiho, Hani, who have to work together for reasons, and they fall in love. Now, what was interesting about this from the start, and what kept me going, kept me reading before rage took over and it was a hate read towards the end, is that there was so much promise in this premise. It's that essentially gods, demons, etc., all these mythological creatures live on Earth among humans, but the humans don't know about it. Typical like fun urban fantasy setup, right? So, and I love urban fantasy, so that was like really interesting to me. And it did nothing with that. Like, yes, there's the main storyline is that Sokha is a fallen god, so he has this task of killing 20,000 demons before he can go back to the godly realm. And Hani is a Gumiho, and she has to team up with him because she killed some men, and in the past, Jack the Ripper days, she was known as the Scarlet Fox, who tore through a whole bunch of men, like ate the hundreds of men's livers and souls, and then eventually she killed Jack the Ripper. And she's been dormant ever since, but she has to kill 2 men who try to attack her. And Sokha is on the case trying to find the Scarlet Fox. So Hani ingratiates her way into the police department and becomes his assistant to try to derail him from that investigation. While also there is this really dangerous demon that has come to the mortal realm and the world is at stake. That's the basic setup here. And it is a romance between Hani and Sokka. But what started out as great for me, like in my head, I was like, okay, these two characters do not like each other at the start of this book. They irritate each other, they frustrate each other, they really don't like each other. And that felt like real enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers, annoyance to lovers, like people who don't like each other to lovers. Like, I liked that. And it didn't feel like the like half-baked, oh, you know, you did something and there was a misunderstanding 3 years ago, enemies to lovers kind of situation that usually goes on. But the problem was that the way that they annoyed each other started to annoy me. And the longer it went on, the more and more it annoyed me as a reader. And it was so childish, the things that they did to each other, the way they annoyed each other. These are millennia-old creatures. Hani is like 1700 years old. Sokka is a god who has been alive for God knows how long. And they're just like dumb teenagers. Like literally, like they're just, I couldn't, like, okay, let me go back to my review because Hani kept sticking her tongue out at Sokka like it was supposed to be cute. There's this whole running gag about coffee, like Sokka loves coffee, Hani hates coffee, and the whole thing why they hate each other is because he was rude to her one time because he thought she made his coffee order wrong and he got her reprimanded. So from then on, every time he came in, she did his coffee wrong on purpose. And there's a whole running joke about how she never makes his coffee right. And I'm just like, I hate coffee. I hate coffee. And I started to detest this dumb running gag throughout the whole book. Like it just kept going and going and going. Let me see what else. Sokka always speaks, like he's always icy and he's always snarling and he's always cold and rude and very condescending all the time. He's always described as like an icy calm when he's snarling at someone. Hani is always mischievous and smirking. They're always smirking and snickering and scowling, and it got so repetitive in like the most annoying way. Like these were not grown adults. These were children. These were annoying teenagers. It was just so annoying to read. I wrote down, why did this just feel like a Loki / Rita Grumpy Sunshine fanfic with Sokka as Loki? And Hani is supposed to be this like Scarlet Fox, like she murdered tons of men back in the past. She's supposed to be badass with her daggers and supposed to be really great, but none of that comes through in the actual characterization the way she's written in this book. None. Absolutely nothing. Until there's a big fight at the end and she's really badass. But like, other than that, like nothing about her speaks to any of this history, of her history. None of it. Let's see. They had a literal staring contest. Like literally like stare at each other and the first to blink loses staring contest. There was a lot of page time dedicated to this staring contest. It was the dumbest thing I had to sit through. I was reading this on audio and I was like, are we really doing this? This is what we're doing here? Like it was just on top of everything else. Like it just kept like building and building, building to the point where I was just so annoyed with these two. And they just kept annoying me. The way they kept annoying each other just started annoying me. Like I was the one that was being annoyed by how incredibly annoying Hani is. Again, like I said, there was so much promise here, and there's so much promise with like the mythology, the story. There is a mystery, and like this demon that came from this other world and came to the mortal plane. This demon can like inhabit a human. So the question is like, who is he in? They don't know who the human body is. So there's a mystery of trying to figure out who that is before the demon kills more people, gains more power, and tries to turn Earth into like the dark realm again. And there was so much promise there. There were moments as the story was going on, there were moments that I could see where Hani and Sokka, mostly Sokka to start with, were like kind of like those sort of moments where one of them like sees something a tiny bit and feels a tiny bit of something that isn't annoyance at the other. And I could see, okay, you're seeding like this change. Like I can see the path being laid for these two eventually falling for each other, right? Changing their mind, becoming, you know, less annoyed at each other, seeing each other in different light. There were seeds, there were little sprinklings. But I think the story didn't want to be in that space anymore. The story wanted to be in the spicy romanticy phase right away. So literally, they go from annoyed to horny in like the drop of a hat. I'm not kidding. I'm gonna spoiler here just for a second because this is something that happens, but it's just so absurd. I have to tell you. I just have to tell you. So they go to this island to try to find a witness who may know who the physical body of this demon is. And while they're there, they visit this fairy who is on the island, who also happens to be like someone Sokka had a tryst with ages ago. But they visit this fairy who can like divine things, sort of like a scrying situation. And the fairy is like, okay, I'll do this for you if you kiss the one with the wine-colored eyes. And Hani was like, oh shit, that's me. So this fairy literally makes them kiss. And literally after that, that's when everything turns and they're just fucking horny for each other after that. Like literally halfway through this book, a fairy makes them kiss. And I think at some point, Hani sees Sokka shirtless, and of course he's like ripped to hell and like gorgeous, blah, blah, blah. But it's literally a fairy makes them kiss and boom, we're heading towards horny, spicy romanticy for the rest of the book. And somehow they're falling in love after that. I was just like, you didn't want to keep slowly seeding this, and you just like all of a sudden was like, it was so upsetting. It was so annoying because like I could see the seeds of it happening, but no, we wanted to be in a spicy romanticy space. So we just like made this thing happen, Deus Ex Machina shit, and they're horny and falling in love. It just could have been developed so much better. It could have been so much more time could have been devoted to it. We could have spent less time on the really super childish, annoying each other shit. Cut that down a little bit, cut out some of those scenes, seeded, like you could have kept it slow but steady, you know, more, and then like really just did something different with the romance. It could have been so good. And then back to the mystery, there was a red herring and it was very obvious in the first scene. I'm just like, this is the guy, like that's the demon right there. He's so twitchy and asking weird questions. That's him. He's the demon. Why don't you guys see it, you idiots? And the next scene, they do notice. So they're not complete idiots. It was a very quick red herring gotten out of the way. And I think after that was done, it's kind of insane that the author then goes on to do a big reveal of who the actual demon is inhabiting, thinking that we had no idea it was this character, but it was actually incredibly obvious that it was this character. I was like, oh, it's not this guy, but this is the only other character that isn't this one steadfast character. This is the only other person who has any kind of prolonged screen time in here. That makes sense. But it was treated as some huge fucking reveal, especially for these two idiots. Like, the decisions made for when they're idiots and when they're not is just, it's disappointing. It's so stupid. And then Hani has this best friend, coworker Gumiho, who as soon as a specific thing happens, I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to happen, and then this and this and this. People are going to think this, and that's going to happen, and beat by beat, exactly what happens in the plot. And I was just like, you had one, like, you tried to make it a clever red herring, but the rest of it was just so painfully obvious and predictable. That was it. Oh, finally. I read this on audio, and there's two audiobook narrators, one for Sokka, one for Hani, and these people, God bless them, but they can't emote to save their lives. It was painful to listen to. I did not know if someone was sad or angry or whispering or laughing until the narrator read out the dialogue tag. There's no emoting. These people could not act to save their lives. It was rough to listen to. It just made all of the annoying things that much more annoying. Like, I would have been annoyed anyways if I was reading it in text, but the bad narrators made it that much worse. Like, a really great narrator, like, you don't have to like be a great actor to be a good narrator, but you still have to have some kind of talent at being able to emote and bring something to life, you know, not just reading things off the page like you're like a first year freshman in drama class for the first time, you know. It was just it was just like, go girl, give us nothing kind of energy. Let me double check everything here. Childish, romance, red herrings, stupid coffee, audio. Yeah. Anyways, that was a huge letdown. I think it, I just, when the romance flips from them being annoyed to each other to, and it just does a fucking 180-degree turn to them being horny and falling in love, that was when I was just like, this is a 3.5. This isn't bad, you know. It was just steady 3.5, maybe dipping to a 3. We did that literal, that moment. It just downhill, all the way downhill from there, unfortunately. So, which I think what makes me the most upset is, like I talked about, like the premise. There was so much promise here. There was so much promise. There were so many interesting things being laid out in the background, but it was just like, this book just wanted to be spicy romantasy with like a cardboard painted backdrop of urban fantasy mythology, which is upsetting to me because the cardboard backdrop of urban fantasy mythology was really interesting, and you could have done so much more than what was being done, because these two were idiot characters who were just horny for each other, and I didn't believe in their romance, and especially didn't believe that it was true love like the ending tries to make me believe. Whatever. Oh, the ending. Cowardly way out. Cowardly way out. If you've read the book, you know how it ends, and you know what the great dilemma for Honey is. And the way it ends, how it ends, cowardly. I was just like, oh, you want to do this while still making me believe that they're both in love and that this wasn't... No, could have done so much better. And then I've read the synopsis for book 2, and I'm just like, really? That's where we're going with it? No. I just... Nope. What a way to start the year, right? That's why I picked up the Other Worlds books depend on the encounter, because I was like, I'm not going to let this be the first book that I finish this year. So 1 star. All right, last thing I finished also on audio is Livesuit by James S.A. Corey. This is actually a novella taking place in their new The Captives War series, the first book of which was The Mercy of Gods. Now, I read The Mercy of Gods when it came out last year because I was very excited, and I gave it a 3. I was kind of mad about it, but this was a great novella. I really liked this because it provided what I didn't know I was missing in the first book. This was more of a, action military forward part of the world. So in this novella, we're following a completely different faction of humans who have created essentially what is kind of like a fibrous nanotech exoskeleton, and soldiers enlist to be Livesuit soldiers, and it's semi-permanent. Once they put it on, they can't take it off until their service ends. And so we follow a character who is like a medic in his world, and then he signs up. And so we follow him before his service and during his service as he kind of begins to figure out and just kind of grapple with the real toll that this war is taking on him and humans. And that the thematic premise isn't exactly new. It's kind of a trope, but this is the kind of story where I'm like, this is why I like it. James S.A. Corey. This is the kind of stuff why I'm like, this is why I really like their writing. Because it was just compelling, it was emotional, it was creepy, it was just so interesting. And the very last scene, oh, that was so good. That was so fucking good. And also, this is making me wonder, it's making me so curious now about the rest of the series, because the first book, I think for me, I gave it 3 stars because I didn't feel like it was the first kickoff book of a novel. It felt like a prequel that you read maybe after you've read the series. And it's very heavily focused on character work, on researchers, and it makes me curious for where this is going and why the focus on the main part of the series is on these researchers and these specific characters when we have all of this super interesting military action over here, both from like a world perspective and also from a writing perspective. So it's actually making me think a bit more fondly of The Mercy of Gods, which is a feat. But yeah, if you like The Mercy of Gods, absolutely read this. It's really good, and Jefferson Mays narrates it. And just as I said that, just as I had that horrible narration experience with The God and the Gumiho, it was so lovely coming to a Jefferson Mays narration. He is so good. I just love him. Anyways, yeah, so that was a really nice end to the week. I listened to it in one day because I had to do a lot of driving for work. Yesterday. Yeah, I listened to it yesterday. Yeah, really glad that was a good one. So what did I give it? I gave that 4 stars, maybe 4.5. Yeah, that was that. Okay, book haul time. When I say it's a lot, it's a lot. I'm gonna have to figure out like where I'm gonna put these books as I show them and everything. But anyways, first I have the entire Rain Wilds Chronicles, which is one of the series in the entirety of the Realm of the Elderling series by Robin Hobb. And I also have Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. This is book 3 of the Tawny Man trilogy. So I only had the first 2 books. I never got around to getting book 3. So now with book 3, finishing Tawny Man, and with getting all of these mass markets for Rain Wilds, I have now collected the entirety of the Realm of the Elderlings so that I can just make my way through it. Because I had to pause after Live Ship Traders, because if you read Robin Hobb, you know, there's a lot of, emotional wreckage is how you feel after the end of a series. So now that I've collected all of these, beautiful, I will continue on. At a minimum, I want to read Tawny Man this year. So, God, there's so many books. Next, also completing series, I have Two Like the Lightning and Perhaps the Stars by Ada Palmer. So this is Terra Ignota. And I am a little upset that Perhaps the Stars is kind of bigger than Two Like the Lightning, which I think may be a little bigger than the other 2 books also. But they match. They're going to match. That's okay. So I bought Two Like the Lightning because I originally read it on audio, so I wanted the full copy to complete the series. And then I hadn't bought Perhaps the Stars yet. So this is chunky. Like, I didn't realize how huge this is. This is going to be interesting to read. So yeah, finishing these books. And I love these covers. Look at that sci-fi cover. Look at those sci-fi covers. So, yes, finishing up Terra Ignota. More sci-fi. Ooh, interesting. These are the 10th anniversary editions of books 2 and 3 in The Expanse. I'm collecting them in the 10th anniversary editions as they come out, as they're released, because I originally read it through the library on audio, so I don't own, you know, any versions of it. Abaddon's Gate, I don't actually know how that's pronounced. This is the blue neon sprayed edges with the orange inner. Beautiful. And the inside art is, I believe, the art that is featured used on the paperbacks of these in the original hardcover. So yeah, wow, never actually looked at that. Huh, kind of awesome. Anyways, and beautiful neon blue. Then we have Caliban's War, which is in red. Kind of see this here. Oh, there we go. So the inside is red. Here's the hardcover, neon red, and the art. Here is the inner art. Again, art that was used, I believe, on the original paperback and hardcovers. Man, I gotta reread these. I never really looked at the art of this. So I'm like, is that moment from that thing? Is that one particular ship? I don't know. Maybe it is. Even more sci-fi. These are fun. Okay, so there is a really great used bookstore in my town, and they have fucking metric fuck ton of romance, but they also have some really good fantasy and sci-fi. Lots of old sci-fi fantasy mass markets. So I kind of just browse and look at stuff that like kind of catches my fancy. I do look for specific authors. Like I am trying to collect Bujold through there. That's where I got 6 Bujolds from there. And these were just like Either the author caught my eye or just the book itself caught my eye for whatever reason. So first I got The Engines of God by Jack McDevitt. I literally do not remember why I grabbed them, why I grabbed this one, but it's cool. Humans call them the Monument Makers. An unknown race, they left stunning alien statues on distant planets in the galaxy. They may hold the only key to survival for the entire human race. I literally don't remember why I got this, but it does have weird alien monuments. I love old sci-fi covers. Next, Sporting Chance by Elizabeth Moon. I do want to try more Elizabeth Moon. She is a classic sci-fi author. This one, I showed it to my husband. He was like, what the fuck? Is that a hot air balloon racing a spaceship? It is indeed. So, yeah, I'm not going to read through all these. Because essentially I'm grabbing these because of the covers. And then if the synopsis looks interesting, I'll grab it. But like the covers are what's catching my eye. So the covers are all that matter. And then lastly, this one is definitely, I grabbed it because what the fuck? They sit like this on the shelves, and this was on top. So this cover caught my eye. This is Dangerous Games by Marta Randall. And we're just gonna take a second. Catwoman with a cat baby. And yes, those are a bunch of human babies in cylinders on a wall. Yes. So, yeah, I had to grab that because because old sci-fi covers. That is 3 classic sci-fis that I grabbed for, I don't know, it was like $10. Okay, now we're going to go through a bunch of contemporary non-genre fiction. So first I have The Band by Christine Mock-Helms. This is a contemporary K-pop novel, but more of satirical like indictment of the K-pop industry. The writing is very interesting. I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about this, but it was 50% off during the current 50% off sale, and I kind of have a K-pop novel reading vlog idea in mind, so this is part of it. But yeah, I'm very interested in this. Next I grabbed because the book club that I am a part of on Discord, oh, there is a fucking tag. I had it in my backpack today when I went to Barnes & Noble, and I set off the sensors when I walked in, and I tried to find the tag that was setting it off, but I couldn't find it. So, stupid tag. If you didn't know, Barnes & Noble will sometimes put these in books. These are basically the anti-theft sensors. Anyways, Almond by Sohn Won-pyung. This is a Korean contemporary novel. I know it got really popular because RM from BTS recommended it at some point. So this is actually picked for our translated fiction theme this month for the book club that I'm on Discord. Next, I am genuinely excited about this. This is In the Distance by Hernan Diaz. I read Trust by him. That won the Pulitzer Prize 2 years ago, maybe. I read that by him and I really liked it. And then I read a little bit of this I think I read the first 2 chapters of this in the bookstore, and I really liked the writing, so I grabbed it. This is historical fiction again, but more of like, it's a Swedish man who somehow makes it to America and his travels across the land. Why do books like this that are reissued never have the actual like premise? Literally the entire back is just praise, and then pages and pages of praise. Like, I get it. He's a Pulitzer Prize. This book was a Pulitzer Prize finalist. Like, I get it. There's a reason I picked it up. So, I don't remember the exact premise, but what I said is what I remember. So, I'm gonna read this soon. I think I'm really like gearing up to read this. Next, another Pulitzer Prize finalist, There by Tommy Orange. I know he came out with one last year also, but I wanted to read this first. Tommy Orange is an Indigenous author, so I'm very curious about this. 12 characters from Native communities, all traveling to the big Oakland powwow, all connected to one another in ways they may not yet realized. I'm very interested to read this. They're, again, Pulitzer Prize finalists, so we'll see how it goes. Lastly, I didn't realize this. Pulitzer Prize winner, The Night Watchman by Louise Erdrich. I've been wanting to read some Louise Erdrich because Angela at Literary Science Alliance really likes her and has enjoyed some of her works. And I figured I'd just go with the one that won the Pulitzer Prize. I'm sorry that I'm not really doing synopses here. You can go look them up. I have too many books to talk about to do that. But yes, I actually really like this cover. One thing I do have to say though, is that I am suffering through step backs here. I really don't like step backs, especially when there is nothing to the step back, when it's just a way to put more fucking praise on it. Like, if you're gonna make me suffer through a step back, it better be good. It better be for a good reason. Not that these are the reissues and they're the only paperbacks I can find on the shelves. Anyways, they're so annoying because the page here, it may be a little thicker than the normal pages, but it's still not that great. So then you just get damage as you read. It just gets damaged. So come on. Why is everything step backs just to tell me that it's a New York Times bestseller or Pulitzer Prize finalist? I can read. Next are going to be my Aardvark Book Club boxes, books. Aardvark Book Club book picks for November and December and January. So my December pick was Alter Ego by Alex Segura. This is about a comic book writer artist. The bookmark for December, the screen, that's okay. And what does it say? All our brain power was used on hints. I don't know if you know about Aardvark or follow them at all, but they have amazing hints for their books for each month. Like truly, whoever is running their hints in their social media, it's so good. And then here is the card for December with showing all the books that were there. And then for January, Aardvark actually provided their 2024 book of the year as an option for your January box. So none of the other books were catching my eye, so I picked this. This is The Reformatory by Tananarive. I did not know that this book was a fucking brick. So the reason why I went with it is because it's a beautiful, beautiful naked hardback. Ow, it just poked me. Oh, okay. The naked hardback is so pretty. I think I might actually let it live naked. And I love the Aardvark logo. They always incorporate it in some way that makes sense. So here you can see the foil and then kind of by itself. Sides are foiled. That is the only like special thing about it. The cover is the normal cover. There's no sprayed edges or anything like that. If you got it early enough, you could have gotten a signed copy, but I was not, you know, chomping at the bit to get a signed copy. And then here is January's bookmark. Very pixely. Tetrisy. Is it Tetris? Yeah, it's Tetris. There. And then it says, "We hear you. Our ears are thicker." That's okay. Not their best. And then here are the other books for the month. And I went with this both because it was the book of the year and of the hardcover, and also because none of these books caught my eye. And then for January, this month we challenge you to design an Aardvark bookmark. Oh, how cute! Oh, I think I might do that. That's so cute. I like that. Okay. That was Aardvark for December and January. Okay, the next two I got during, what was it? Essentially end of the year sales for this publisher. This is from Tachyon Publishing. They are an indie press that does a lot of sci-fi fantasy speculative work. So when they were doing, I think they had 24% off sale from like Black Friday till the end of the year. And I was like, okay, bet. Like I wanted to support them, and they had a couple of books that I picked up. So first is The Tangleroot Palace by Marjorie Liu. Most people know her for being the author of Monstress, the graphic novels Monstress. And these are a series of short stories by her. And the cover is actually designed and drawn by her co-creator on Monstress, the artist on Monstress. So that's pretty. And then the other thing I picked up is a short story anthology, New Adventures in Space Opera. A lot of these authors really spoke to me. So we have T. Kingfisher, Charlie Jane Anders, Aliette de Bodard, Seth Dickinson, Lavia Tidar, Tobias S. Buckle, Yoon-Ha Lee, Arcady Martine, Alistair Reynolds, Becky Chambers, Anya Joanna De Niro, and Lecky, Sam J. Miller, and Karen Tidbeck. So that is quite the author list, and space opera. And it's also edited by Jonathan Strahan. 2 books bought directly from Taekyon Publishing to support them. All right, next is a sci-fi mystery, and you know I've been loving those. This is Station Eternity by Mur Lafferty. I tried it the year, like directly when it came out, and I did an audio, and I didn't quite like the audio narrator, so I kind of soft DNF it, and I got it at 50% off, so I figured why not? And I'm excited to try it. I'm really just super into sci-fi mysteries at this point. Next I have Metal from Heaven by August Clark. I was interested in this, more of a like check it out from the library kind of thing, but Amal El-Motar, who co-wrote This Is How You Lose the Time War, talked this up so hard on Blue Sky. And the way she talked about it was like, okay, I'm fucking in. And I went to the bookstore, read the first chapter, liked what I was reading, so I bought it. I do want to kind of focus on how awesome this cover is. It's like, it's hard to see with the ring light, but it's like very shiny. Love the colors. It's just beautiful. And then it's, oh, my favorite purple for the inside and foiling there. Finally, I literally bought this today. So this is Lightfall by Ed Crocker. This is a vampire fantasy where it's a vampire-filled world, and it's kind of like society is stratified by vampires. If you're high class, you get really good blood. The lower your class, the worse blood you get. And we have a maid who finds evidence in one of her murdered employer's rooms, and she uses that to try to bribe her way above her station, and she kind of falls in with some rebels. So I read the first 2 to 3 chapters of the bookstore, and I actually really enjoyed the writing, so I'm very excited to check this out soon. Okay, that's all of it. Yeah. Okay, look, like I said, it's all of December, and it was Christmas, okay? Okay. Hi, welcome to a video I'm just gonna call Recent Reads, because I need to talk about what I've been reading before the end of the month, and I end up with a very long video. Almond by Sohn Won-pyung. This is a popular book translated from Korean, South Korean author, and essentially this is a contemporary novel about a young teenage boy who has a diagnosis of alexithymia, which means he doesn't feel emotions the way most people do. And it's called Almond because I think the amygdala are almond shaped in your brain. So, and it becomes like a thematic theme for him. In this book, he has a mom and a grandma who try to work to get him to be normal, quote unquote normal, and suddenly something happens and they are out of his life. And we follow him as he tries to figure out how to keep living life and how to be quote unquote normal without their guidance. This was okay. I think, yeah, it was okay. I didn't mind it. I liked it. There were a lot of like moments that resonated with me, but mostly in the first half of the book. Once the mom and grandma are kind of out of the picture, I think the book kind of flounders for me. And introducing this new teenage boy who becomes his friend, I don't know. I didn't quite like the last half of the book, essentially. And I think it wrapped up a little too neatly. But then I realized after, when I finished the book and I went to read some reviews, I think I actually said it, read it in the author's note. This is intended to be YA. I wish I had known that going in at the start, that this is intended fully to be YA, because it reframes how I would have thought about this book and the way it's written and the themes that it's applying. What did I give it? I gave it 4 stars. It's very well written. It was compulsive. I read it in like a couple of hours, and I was engaged with the story. I really felt for, you know, our main character and his family and everything that he's going through. Again, the end kind of like tapered off in terms of what I was enjoying, but just a really well-written book. I do recommend it if you want to try some translated work that is a little easier to read in terms of like being really readable and you can understand it. I don't think there are too many big cultural barriers that would keep you from really connecting to this work and the character. So I recommend this, and I think this became popular mostly in the book community, or like it is popular, but as far as I have seen it and its popularity, it's because I think RM from BTS actually recommended this. So he has good taste. 4 stars. Next, I read a couple of graphic novels to try to lift me up out of my funk, and they're easy to read when I'm just struggling and I just need something to read. So first I read Know Your Station by Sarah Gailey. Usually I like Sarah Gailey, but I don't think they work for me in graphic novel form. And this paired with the next graphic novel, I think a big issue for me with authors, established authors who write novels, moving to the graphic novel comic format, is that they don't really know how to write for the comic format. My main issue here is, I gotta pull up my review. Okay, so essentially this is a story of the future where lots of people have fled Earth because of climate change, etc. And there is the station essentially where the rich live lavishly, and there's a bunch of not rich people who service the station in them. We follow a main character who is a security person, and somebody is murdered gruesomely on the station, and she has to figure out the murders. And she's also dealing with, she's essentially, she takes drugs. And I personally do not like main characters who take drugs for whatever reason. It is just a personal thing for me. And I especially don't like it when that becomes a part of the plot where that turns the character into an unreliable narrator. I hate that narrative device. I hate it. Everything about this kind of just sucked. I gave this 1.5 stars because I didn't quite hate it, but I don't think it was okay. So for me, a 1 is I really hated it, and a 2 is just like, it was okay. The mystery was not good. I figured out who the murderer was really early on. I really disliked the main character and the mystery that she was going on. And again, like I said, a personal thing, but I really disliked the whole thing where she's on drugs constantly. There was no real character growth that I could see. I didn't really understand a lot of the character work that was happening with her and like all the other the side characters. It just, and then the reveal of the murderer and the murderer's motive, it was cringe. I was just like, this is bad. This is cringy. Like I absolutely 100% understand the point, and I agree with the point that Sarah Gailey was making with this story, but everything about it was just cringy. It was not good. And the art was not good. The murders try to have this like shock factor, like Hannibal the TV show kind of situation, but the art did not work for it. The art is very colorful, and I usually really enjoy very colorful art, but it just felt so plain. And then you add the bold colors, and it just didn't feel real. I think you can do cartoonish art that feels ghoulish at the same time, and this just didn't do that. It made all of the like Hannibal-esque gruesome murders like, oh, there's a dude who's murdered and his skin off his back was flayed and like hanging up behind him, and I was like, oh, okay, very Hannibal of you. The next person murdered, or after that, like another person's murdered, and like this dude is like has his lungs literally sitting outside his body, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a thing that happened. Like, I shouldn't be feeling like, oh, okay, that's a thing that's happening when you're trying to show really gruesome murders on page. And then this was written in comic issues, and I read, graphic novel, which was combined all the comics, and it felt like in the last 2 issues, the artist just kind of gave up. We had no sense of space, no sense of like place. Like everything was happening with just like color background. Like there were very like, it's like the artist just stopped doing backgrounds for every panel. It was bad. I didn't like it. Like I didn't expect much from it, but I also I was still disappointed. Like, I don't know if I was disappointed. I don't know the depths of my disappointment because I didn't expect a lot from it, but I was still disappointed even though the bar was like down here. So, it was not good. And it pairs with the next thing I read, which is Earthdivers Volume 1 by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, I read this. I was interested in it because I like Stephen Graham Jones. I enjoy a lot of his work. But again, I don't think being an established novelist means that you will be a successful comic book writer. So the main issue here, okay, so the story is near future, climate change is destroying the earth, and we have these indigenous characters, American indigenous characters, who believe that they found a way to go back in time, and they believe that the way to fix everything is to kill Christopher Columbus so that America is never, America is not founded the same. And somehow that's going... look, don't ask me how that's going to fix anything because the story sure doesn't tell you. So one character goes off into time and he finds his way onto, you know, one of the 3 boats, the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. And so we follow him there, and then we're still with the 3, his wife that he left behind and 2 other characters. We're still with them. And this it was just a jumbled mess. I think that Stephen Graham Jones was trying to do a lot of like timey-wimey bullshit kind of stuff, and it was just a narrative structural mess to me. I can deal with timey-wimey stuff. I enjoy it, but I just wasn't following here. I really wasn't following. Like at some point, another character is introduced where he had gone into the past through the cave. And so like we have the older guy in the present, but then we're also following his story in the past. And maybe like the younger guy in the past is also in the current time. Like I literally had no fucking clue what was going on. And after a certain point, I was just like, I don't care. I'm just gonna finish this. It is wild where the storyline of the guy who goes back in time to Columbus, the path that takes, that's fucking wild. The art was decent, but I think this was just a mess. I gave it 2.5. It was better than Know Your Station because I think Stephen Graham Jones obviously had a vision here, and I could tell that he had a specific thing that he wanted to do. He had specific theming, he had a specific storyline he was trying to tell, or storylines he was trying to tell, but I think it just didn't quite work in comics. I was disappointed. I didn't have quite, you know, high expectations for this, but I was still disappointed. So yeah, 2.5 stars for Earthdivers. Next I read, and I'm so glad this was good for me, Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. Here is the edition with the red edges and this nice map. So I'm just gonna say this and get this out there. This did, for me, what Babel by R.F. Kuang thought it was doing. I did not like Babel. I think what M.L. Wang is doing here, the way that she is talking about all the themes that she's approaching here, they're done in a way that I think really was successful for me, where Babel just wasn't. So fantasy world, we have 2 main characters. So one is a character who is from an outside, so essentially this takes place in like this magically protected city, and this character from the outside, this first chapter is wild. This character is essentially he's a refugee, makes his way into the city with his niece, and then like 10 years later we're following our other main character, and she is on track to become the first ever female mage brought into the mage thing. Words. And she makes it, she's the first ever female mage, but just because she makes it doesn't mean that all the misogyny goes away. So they jokingly give her an assistant who happens to be our other main character, who is a janitor at the mage building, and they jokingly put him with her, but she's like, you know what, fuck you guys, I'm going to train him and use him. Let me get their names because it is Sayona and Tamil, and I hope I'm saying Sayona right. So Sayona is the mage, Tamil is her assistant, and as they move forward, and there's a lot of like Sayona doing magic and like loving the magic that she's doing. The way the magic works in this is really interesting, and that is a massive plot in this. Like the actual structure of how the magic works is a major plot of this book, and the way Sayona and Tamil work together, it helps her adjust her magic to make her an even better mage. And then there's I'm gonna keep it at that because the themes I will tell you, like, you'll have an idea of what this book is approaching, but I kind of want to leave it at that because that's essentially what I went into it with, and everything that kind of like as the story went on, everything was like a pleasant surprise. So this deals with themes of, let's see if I can remember all of it. So colonialism, or if not colonialism, because this city isn't going out and colonizing people. I guess xenophobia Xenophobia is a good way of putting it, you know, anti-immigration, xenophobia, misogyny, obviously, feminism. Let's see, classism, high classism. Religion. Religion is a very good theme in here. And the way religion is mixed in with the magic is very interesting. Yeah, those are the major themes, but there's a lot of other stuff that ML Wang is using and seeding and threading between all these themes that really works for me. Now, I will say that if you've read a lot of fantasy, not a lot of the like things that happen in this are going to be a surprise to you. I could guess where every plot beat was going, but I liked that ML Wang wasn't trying to hide it or make it twisty or anything like that. I think if you don't read a lot of fantasy, those surprises are nice surprises, but if you do, the way she wrote about it didn't feel like she was trying to pull one over you, you know? It was like she trusts you as a fantasy reader to know that this is where it's going, but go along with her and trust her in where she's going. And I did, and I liked all of it. Like, similarly, it's The Will of the Many, I think I have it up here. The Will of the Many by James Islington felt similar to me in that it was very obvious where every plot beat was going, but the journey there was done so well that I didn't mind. So very similar here. I really liked this. And I think people will compare it a lot to Babel because I think they're doing very similar things, but I think this was way more successful to me. Absolutely way more successful. So 4.5 stars. I think there were some moments, some things that didn't quite make it reach a 5-star for me, but yeah, really good. Really glad I read this. I really need to go back now and read her first breakout novel, Sword of Kaigen. I need to get that and read it because if this is indicative of what she can do, and I know people love Sword of Kaigen, then I really need to pick it up. So Blood Over Bright Haven, 4.5 stars. Okay, next, I'm gonna put this first. Technically it's, you know, I read something and then this manga, but I'm gonna put this first because the other things I read all grouped together. So I read Frieren Beyond Journey's End Volume 3. I didn't quite like this volume as much as I liked Volume 1 and 2. I think the issue for me is that this ends the plot arc that was in Volume 2, and then the last half of the chapters that make up the last half of this volume just felt very meandering and not in the fun way that I usually like my slice of life. Didn't quite see the point of a lot of these. And, you know, usually I like slice of life. I really like slice of life, so I can get behind a chapter where it's just one little thing happening. But I don't know, something about the second half of this volume just felt really, like, more than usual, felt kind of meandering and didn't, like, okay, why are we doing any of this? There were some chapters that, you know, led to some more backstory and stuff, which I appreciated, but otherwise, I think I gave it a 3.5. It's still good. The art's still great. I like the story. I like the characters, but I wish that second half had had a little more oomph, especially because I know that we can have like really plot heavy stuff and really interesting stuff. And I know we need to balance it out with the slice of life stuff. But I didn't quite feel that balance here. So 3.5 stars. All right, next. I am back on my Nalini Singh bullshit. I really like the Psy-Changeling universe. This is a long-running paranormal romance by Nalini Singh, essentially changeling shifters, alpha males, and, you know, female romances. I eat them like candy, and I think the reason that I love them so much is that Singh doesn't just do the romance, but she has this really well thought out world. And the macro plotting is always so good. For me, these books, I'm like 80% here for the plot and 20% here for the romance for most of them. And a couple of them, I'm like 95% plot and the other 5% is the romance. So I think this series is essentially, it is a long running series, but it's kind of split into like the first season and then the second season. So the first season was, I think like something like 14 books. And then the second season is, so the first series is called Psy-Changeling, and then what I'm reading now is Psy-Changeling Trinity. So I started with Silver Silence, which is the first book in the Psy-Changeling Trinity, but it's still continuing the exact same story as the full series. So you need to read the original, the first season to read these books. Reading this reminded me how much I like this series, and I devoured them like candy. I have already read 3. I have read Silver Silence, I have read Ocean Light, and Wolf Rain. I really liked Silver Silence, and what shocked me is that I really got invested in the romantic couple in Silver Silence. This is Silver Merchant and Valentin, I forget his last name, but he is a Russian bear changeling, and Silver is a Psy. So this is another shifter Psy pairing, but what I really liked about the romance is that we come into it like months into Valentin, like kind of like low-key being completely smitten with Silver, and like he's been like just pining for her, and he's so smitten with her. So we're coming into it where there's already kind of a soft, small, established non-romantic relationship between them, where Silver just kind of puts up with him, but she hasn't completely shut him out, and Valentin he's just smitten with her. And then when we kick off them actually coming together romantically, there's a lot more history there, and Valentin is actually really sweet, and he's smitten with her, and he allows her to have her agency. And I think a lot of what bothered me with a lot of the couples so far, especially when it's an alpha changeling male with another, like a human female or a Psy female, that they get very, like, a marker of paranormal romance, especially shifter changeling paranormal romances, is that it just builds into this alpha male possessive aggressive trope, which doesn't always work for me. So I liked that trope was still working with Valentin here, but Silver actually had a lot of agency in her decisions to be with Valentin. She actually wants to explore what life would be like without silence. If you don't know anything about the series, it takes place in near future, where in the past there are 3 races. So there are humans, there are the changeling shifters, and there are what are called the Psy, and they have mental powers essentially. And like 150 years before the series starts, the Psy decide to take on what's called silence, essentially, and to shut off all emotions. And at the start of the series, you know, that becomes a really big thing about like removing silence and stuff like that, and experiencing emotions again. So it makes for very dynamic relationships and books when you have changelings. You know, the changelings are very emotional, very tactile, working, you know, trying to work with an emotionless Psy. So that's a big part of a lot of the romances, and a lot of the times it feels like the changelings tend to push the Psy beyond like what they need. The romance in the book presents it as, oh, you know, the Psy needed this all along, but I didn't quite always vibe with that. But here, Silver is deciding if she wants to live without silence so she can make the decision herself. It's not Valentin pushing her boundaries, it's her letting her boundaries down and allowing him to romance her to see if she wants to live this way. I really liked the couple. They were so cute. I liked learning about the bears. These books tend to feel very samey, and you know, it was kind of the same with the bears. Every time we go into a changeling pack, they tend to be the same. But I really like this one. The macro plot continues on from the first season, and it's really good. I really can't say much about it because it's like 14 books worth of plot that I would have to explain for this one, but needless to say, the macro plot is really good. I loved Silver and Valentin, and I gave this 4 stars. Now the next one, after the high of that one, I got to Ocean Light, and I fucking hated this couple. So our couple here is Bowen Knight, who is a human, essentially the leader of like essentially the Human Alliance, and the woman is Kaya. She is a Black Sea changeling, so she's an ocean changeling. Okay, so Bowen gets like, he's infirm, and Black Sea take him and try to, you know, help him. And we come to with Bowen like in Black Sea's territory in one of their deep water like dens or whatever, and Kaya is really close to and helping the doctor who is helping Bo. And we learn immediately that Kaya fucking hates Bo. She hates humans, and she thinks Bo and the Human Alliance is responsible for the very gruesome deaths of 2 of Black Sea changelings, right? this is how we're introduced to Kaya and their dynamic. So Bo then gets like, essentially we have like a countdown of like 14 days that Bo has, you know, to deal with whatever experimental thing before he dies. And that is how we're introduced to them. And I shit you not, it is literally 24 hours. One conversation in 24 hours where Kaya completely does a 180 on how she feels about Bo. She's still kind of like, maybe, like kind of unsure, but these two just get so horny for each other, and the pull to each other is so, and like, literally within 2 days, they kiss, and they're just moving on. Like, literally. And it's just like, all of these books have insta-love. Like, that's just what happened with the romances. Insta-lust, insta-attraction, insta-love. I can deal with that. But it's the fact that you're presenting the fact that Kaya fucking hates Bo and believes he horribly murdered 2 of her pack mates. And then you're going to tell me in 24 hours it's okay, and then they're going to start on this. No. I did a lot of ranting about random shit. I'm not going to keep going here, but I'm going to link my Goodreads review down if you're curious, if you've read the series. I don't know, whatever. I'm going to link my Goodreads review down if you're curious. But I gave that one 2 stars. I fucking hated Bo and Kaya. The main storyline was great. We finally get a lot more about Black Sea, and it was good. The main storyline, like, this is what I'm saying. This is one of those books where I'm here 90% for the macro plot, because the 5% that I care about the romance, at this point, it was like 1% that I cared about the romance. Yeah, okay. So I literally just last night finished Wolf Rain, which is book 3, and I gave it 3.5 stars. So this is, why am I blanking? I literally just finished it. So this is a wolf shifter and a Psy romance. Now, the story kicks off with a bang with the Psy. She's actually been kept in a bunker on Wolflands, and the wolf character, he kind of like sends her out and finds her and rescues her. And so we follow them. Obviously, there's a connection, etc., etc. Like, they're the ones falling in love. I liked here, I didn't quite like the romance as much as I did Valentine and Silver, but what I liked here is that there was also a sense of like Alexei not being as aggressively boundary pushing as other romances have been. Memory has a lot of trauma, like a lot of trauma. This bitch has been like in a bunker and like trapped since she was like 8 years old. And then they do start moving in, you know, towards the romance, you know, lust, attraction. And then when Memory starts meeting with other people, she meets Sasha. Sasha is from book 1. She's like an OG character. When Memory meets with Sasha, and Sasha actually talks to Alexei and says, hey, you need to slow down and give her space because she is traumatized and she needs to learn how to be by herself, and what her, like, she needs to make her home her own, and she needs to figure out how to be by herself and alone. You need to give her space. And I appreciated that so much, because I was starting to get really incredibly concerned and pissed off at how the romance was just moving forward like this. So I appreciated that so much. But then also, like, it became a thing where like Memory gets mad that Alexei is avoiding her, etc., even though Sasha tells her that she told Alexei give her space, and then becomes like and then it kind of turns into a cute back and forth between them. But and the Memory also makes friends with the Arrows, who are this group of Psy who are like deadly assassins and stuff, and it was really nice. And I was like, oh, you know, I've been buddy reading this with friends on Discord, and I did chapter 30. I was like, Memory making friends with the Arrows are so cute. And then chapter 31, oh, I'm fucking crying now. So this was a lot better in terms of like what is going on with the romance and the plot compared to Ocean Light. Still not as great as Silver Silence, but I had a lot of fun with this one. Obviously, like I read these like candy. I just pop them like candy. Like, they're so good. I've already downloaded book 4 from my library, because this far into the series you don't have as many people requesting the books, so essentially every book has been available immediately for me at the library. So yeah, 3.5 stars. So and like literally I need to check the dates on these, because I finished Silver Silence on January 13th, and I finished Wolf Rain last night, which is January 25th. I read 3 Psy-Changeling Trinity books from the 19th to the 25th. What is that, like 6 days? I really enjoy these books for the, like, I just enjoy it. The macro plot is fantastic. The political plotting, all of that is really fantastic. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna finish book 8 I think we're up to book 8 in Trinity right now. I'm gonna get caught up on these in like a couple of weeks because I can't stop reading them. Angela Daw narrates all the audiobooks, and she is so good. She is so fucking good. Like, it is incredible. Like, when I was finishing the first season, book 14, this woman has a scene with 3 different changeling alphas, 3 different alphas, male alphas, and she gives each of them their own specific voice. She has to do male voices, and then each of them has their own specific voice. Like, I knew who was talking whenever she was narrating their parts. Like, she's so good. I need to sing her praises. She's so fucking good. Alrighty, first we'll talk about the DNF of the month, Electric Forest by Tanith Lee. Now, Tanith Lee is sort of a kind of forgotten sci-fi female author. She wrote a lot that I've discovered, a lot, through like the 80s and the 90s, and it's one of those things where I kind of want to delve into authors that I haven't really experienced before, been exposed to before, especially in sci-fi, and especially if they're women. So I tried Electric Forest. I don't know, I think there was like a re-release of this book, so that's kind of how it came onto my radar. It was available at my library, and so I tried it out. And it's a very interesting concept. Essentially, we're on this world that is all blue, and for some reason, and everyone is genetically modified to be very gorgeous. And our main character, I think she's called Ugly. Yeah, our main character was a natural birth. She wasn't genetically modified. So she's considered very ugly and heinous. Everybody hates her. And she is found by this incredibly rich man who takes her in, and he puts her brain consciousness into the body of this absolutely gorgeous woman. That's the basis of what kicks off the book. There's a lot more happening in terms of like society and consciousness and the push and pull between these 2 characters, and our main character, her desire to be liked and experiencing all of this, but also being at the yoke of this guy. And there's some kind of weird sexual attraction between them. And it's just, I got to a point where I realized I don't like these characters. In fact, I hated them. Even our main character, who we're supposed to be, I guess, a little more sympathetic to, because we do start out very sympathetic with her. I just did not like anything about what was going on, anything about where the story started to take a turn. I was like, where is this going? I don't want to follow the story at all. And I'm trying to keep it vague because I didn't really know where the story was kind of turning in the halfway mark. So you don't really get that from the synopsis, or maybe it just went completely over my head, but, you know, just keeping it vague in case, you know, it's considered a spoiler. But, yeah, I very much disliked these characters and the world. So I DNF'd it rather than like finish it, hate read it or something. Now, this isn't souring my exploration of Tanith Lee. I have looked up a lot of like recommendations for her stuff, so I'm gonna try other stuff, maybe stuff that is a little more like well-known, well-regarded from her. So that was my DNF of the month. Now, the other 3 books to talk about after you've seen the clips is the next 3 books in the Psy-Changeling Trinity series. I read another 3 books before the end of the month. These are Alpha Knight, which I gave 4 stars, Last Guard, which I gave 4 stars, and Storm Echo, which I gave 4 stars. No, one of those got 3 or 3.5. Anyways, yeah, so I blew through, what is that, 6 books in this series, in like 3 weeks. When I tell you that my mental health has been like seesawing, yeah, that will kind of explain it. But like I said before, these books are like candy to me. They're super easy to get into. They're super easy to read. I really love the macro plot. Now, let me look up my notes on each one because like everything's kind of blurring together. So I do try to make a point to like put quick reviews on Goodreads. I'm not reviewing these books like seriously. It's mostly just my reactions and, you know, thoughts and stuff. So Alpha Knight We follow, this is a mating at first sight romance. We've never had one of these before. A lot of the books are insta-love, but this is like the actual mating bond snaps at first sight, which is the first that's kind of happened. Too bad I didn't really enjoy the romance in this one. This is with a female wolf alpha, Selenka, who is the alpha of the wolves who live next to the Bear clan in Russia. And Ethan, who is an arrow, who is incredibly damaged by silence, etc. Just like every other Psy male in this series. Everybody's damaged, everybody has PTSD, everybody has super incredible baggage that they have to get through with the power of love. That's basically what happens in every single book. I liked the expansion of like the region of Russia, you know, the wolves and the bears and Russia and this whole region expanding more into like Europe and Asia here when the first like season was so, you know, US focused. But I didn't like it. The romance was just meh. And what did I say? Ethan, he's so indicative of these characters, and this continues in the next couple of books too. These characters who are so traumatized by their past that they just see themselves as like being like really bad and irredeemable because of what they've done in the past or what they've been forced to do or what like their survival has made them do, etc. And it's so hard to swallow that concept when I've read 6 books back to back to back to back, because it's like, this is a romance. And with the way every single romance is played out, I just can't suspend my disbelief anymore. And it's hard to swallow that self-pitying, that self-hate, when I know that these books will never, ever, ever have a main character in a romance who is actually evil or actually irredeemable. It's never going to happen. So it gets a little hard to swallow that after reading so many in a row. But, you know, Ethan was okay. He does light powers. That was cool. And also he's a super special empath. Everybody in these books are super, super special duper, super duper special. Next was Last Guard. This is... Oh yeah, this was Pale and Kanto. I liked this romance. I liked it because it's 2 Psy, and Pale and Kanto, and this actually, their romance was, this was like 50-50 romance and macro plot, which is what I enjoy the most out of these books. I love the macro plot that's going on, the political plotting, everything that's going on. Pale and Kanto are like, they come from families that are like 2 sides of the same coin. So Kanto is a merchant, and we have really been spending time with the merchants in the Psy Trinity, and we've grown to, you know most of them, love them. We've grown to understand their family. They're very strong in family, even through silence. There's like, that was their motto. We're bashed over the head with it. You know, merchants are all about family, stay strong, you're loyal, etc. And then you have Pyle, who comes from this conglomerate, and her father and her brother are incredibly... they were like kind of cartoonishly evil at times, but it worked for what it was doing. It worked for the juxtaposition of Pyle and Kanto and everything that they were going through in their romance, and the way... also they have like a connection from when they were children, which is very interesting to explore. And for me, that did a lot of work towards doing this insta-love thing. They had some kind of deep connection that really informed who they were as children. They've kind of held on to the idea of who those children were. So to see each other grown up and like to have that instant connection makes sense to me. So I didn't mind the like insta-love, lust at first sight kind of thing. What else did I write? Oh, again, because I'm reading these back to back to back, it's like every single one of these books has some kind of countdown to some mental instability or death or something, and then, you know, they kind of get around it. This one felt very Deus Ex Machina in fixing that countdown, but, you know, let it slide, whatever. Then the macro plot. Kanto actually gets in touch with Pale because they are both designation A. They are anchors for the Psynet, and the way that working them together and expanding the macro plot and the world of the Psy and how the Psy, you know, stuff works, loved it. I really liked this entry in the series. So romance was great. Romance really worked for me. Kanto is actually disabled. He uses a wheelchair. He doesn't have use of his legs. There are like assistance devices where he could, you know, walk and stuff, but he chooses to use a chair. Yeah. I really liked this one, especially, you know, back to back. Thumbs up. This was a good entry. All right, and then we have Storm Echo. Again, like I said, reading these back to back, picking up on the same things that are happening over and over. You have characters who are so traumatized by their past that they have a hard time seeing themselves as good people. They have this fixed idea of who they are. Oh my god, something is in my eye. Okay. Fixed idea of who they are. And Ivan is one of these people. He has this idea that there is a bad thing in him, bad power. There's nothing good about it. He is a horrible person. It's a countdown until his shields break and this power is loosened. But here's the thing, like I said, I can't take this seriously. I can't bite into this emotional trauma when I know that it's not going to be an evil power in the end. It's going to turn out to be something different. We've done this 2 or 3 times already. Ivan? I think it was Ivan. He's not going to be an evil, power-hungry dude. Like, none of these main characters, the heroes and heroines, they're not going to be evil, irredeemable people in the end. It's going to work out. It's a romance. It has to work out. So it gets hard to swallow that. And I got so annoyed by Ivan by the end of this. I was just like, dude, bro, like, I understand, but bro, calm down. I liked Soleil, and when I tell you, ooh, this is good. I was listening in the car, and then we get like how Soleil ties into this whole world and how Soleil is related to a plot thread that happened in previous book, and I shrieked in my car. It was a great moment when that clicked. So good, very emotional when it all works out. I really liked it. Now, the way this romance is structured, the pacing felt off at the start of this book, but once they got past the pacing and things started moving at, you know, a normal romance thing, like having that weird structure to the romance actually was interesting because of something different. But, but the pacing felt off. Felt a little weird, but things moved on. Very big macro plot implications here. Ivan becomes a very huge part of what's going on in the macro plot, which I find very interesting and I like. I just wish I didn't hate him so much. I liked him at the end because he got over himself. But yeah, with the way things ended in this book, woo, this plot is going places. Like, things are getting intense, and I don't really know where we're going, which is really interesting. And I remember that from the first season as well. Things were like ebbing and flowing. The plot, you know, you would have a big plot book and then like it would kind of fade in the background and you didn't really know exactly where things were going. You thought you did, and then maybe we got to that point, but then we had to keep going on. This one, I'm like, I don't know how they're getting out of this. I don't know what they're gonna do, which is exciting, especially after reading so many of these in a row. So 3 Psy-Changeling Trinity books. That makes 6 read for the month. I have, it's like this is February 3rd. I have already finished book 7 and I started book 8 today. So yeah, Nalini Singh has been hard carrying my mental health for the last 3 weeks. That's my reading for January. That is everything I have done. Let me know what you think. Have you read anything Psy-Changeling? Because I feel like a crazy person. I enjoy these books so much. They just work for my brain a lot, even though I'm not a romance reader. I feel like in this context, in like these, and this happens with urban fantasy too, I think urban fantasy and paranormal romance, that is where I like my romance. I'm not into romantasy. I'm not into regular contemporary romance. Historical romances, no. Like, this is where I like my romance. I'm finding out. So, even though sometimes I don't even like the romance that much. So yeah, just lots of fun. Let me know what you've read. What's the best thing you read this month? I would like to hear that because I'm gonna need something. I'm gonna have the biggest, like, book slump when I finish book 8 because I don't know what the hell I'm going to read after this. It's going to be interesting. We'll see how February goes. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me rambling. Hoping we're going to get back onto a regular groove again. And I will catch you soon. Bye.